I'm sorry. I hope you know. I'm going to try my best to not eat on mic, but I do have a slice of lasagna. I could not.
Because he doesn't know the territory. What do you talk?
Make it another hour. I think that the listener deserves to know, and I'm not even sure which will come out first, that this is, I think, the first time we're trying this, but we're recording this Patreon episode immediately following a rather lengthy recording of the main episode. So we'll see. I don't know. Maybe we'll be fatigued. Maybe we'll be fucking fired up. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. Either way, I absolutely have to eat. I'm sorry. I couldn't make it another hour.
I'll tell you the difference for me is, one, I've started drinking, and two, I'm singing show tunes. Which,
yeah.
I don't know how that bodes well.
I feel good, man. I'm rocking, dude. I'm rocking in the free world.
I feel good.
That's a song, right?
I smell good. I make love good. You ever see that James Brown interview?
Yes, dude.
It's so
James Brown.
It's so good. It is hammered.
Oh, he is flying high in that interview. Where you at, Ted? he keeps
this
calling
is
for Ted Turner.
Man's world.
So my favorite is when he maybe if we get creative, we could put this in here. Was where he just goes jam.
Now, don't leave us, James. You stay right there. We have more that we have to talk about. Well, tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing on this tour.
What'd you say?
What are you going to be doing on this tour?
I'm going to be doing Papa's Got a Brand New Bag, Living in America, Sex Machine, Get Up Off of That Thing, I Feel Good, Jam.
I forgot who was interviewing him. But she said something which was like the whitest thing in the world that I heard. Like, because he was just like, she was like, so what is your legal status right now? And he just goes like this incomprehensibly, goes, I'm out on love. And she goes, are you out on love? Or are you out of love?
No, she says, no, because he just like fucking like held his wife hostage or something and threatened her, right? And he's out on bail, and that's her question. He's like, so because he comes on and starts talking about music, right? And then she's like, switches gears, and she's like, you're out on bail right now. And that's when he says, no, I'm not. I'm out on love.
That's right.
Right? And he's like, let's talk about the music. I don't want to talk about that.
I love though at the end though, you'll notice like how seriously he takes his kind of like
the Christian
ecclesiastical shit.
Yes. He immediately gets serious.
He gets so serious. It's like, well, we've got Brother Al Sharpton coming out and Brother Jesse Jackson, and I'm like, oh, he takes that really seriously, and then he ends like, living in America. Oh, James Brown was a legend, man. What a fucking life. I mean, aside from brandishing shotguns at employees and shit, but aside from that,
or like over the use of his private bathroom was what that was over.
That's right. I gotta be honest. I remember having a music teacher play for me. I think it was like a specific compilation. But it was called like maybe Green Peas or something like that. But it was James Brown and the JBs. And I remember the first song coming on, and I think it was Sex Machine, and it changed my fucking life. I just listened to that, and it changed me. Obviously, I'm doing a little funny shit on Twitter lately, where I'm like talking a little bit more about music because I find it to be.
I am too. No, yeah.
It's
me
it's
too.
a little. Yes, Shane, please tell us about the Pirates of the Caribbean soundtrack.
Trying a little something different on Twitter these days, and it's called posting sincerely about things I enjoy.
Well, look, I mean, I post sincerely, but about things that I find frustrating and personally extremely agitating. And so for a little break from the normal storm and drum, I think is a little nice to talk about 90s punk albums.
It's funny you should say that, Dwight, because just today I had a little musical event happen. I was out. I was trying to listen to music on my phone while I was out and about. And I had this German march from the 1920s I was trying to listen to. Because it was raining, every time I put it in my pocket, it would like go to the next song. And for some reason, YouTube Music has this idea construed that like, oh, if you're listening to this obscure song from Germany from 100 years ago, do you want to hear AC/DC next?
Do
you want to hear
that's not where I thought that was going.
Do you want to hear Pantera?
Yeah, no, it was just like random other
Wagner?
bullshit. I swear to God, there's a game afoot with with the YouTube recommendations, where if you start listening to music,
right,
no matter what it is, eventually it will take you to John Denver's Country Roads.
Well,
because there have been so many times where I've gotten extremely intoxicated, put on YouTube to listen to some music, maybe fall asleep a little, wake up to fucking Country Roads. And now because of that, I never listened to the song as a child because of that.
Good song.
I have like nostalgia and emotion because it's like me waking up in the wee hours of the morning out of some kind of fit.
Oh, dude,
I do have legitimate nostalgia about that song because I went to WVU and they play that song after every football game, at midnight, at every bar. I mean, by the way, I was going to say that is not the worst thing I've heard of the YouTube algorithm doing. You know, it's like, hey, I see you enjoyed this video about archaeology. Would you maybe like to watch this video about the superiority of the Caucasoid skull?
right.
That sort of thing.
Yes.
Would you like to watch this Ben Shapiro epically owns the SJWs compilation?
Before we, I do want to talk about that, but I just have to mention, if you haven't heard it before, on YouTube there is somebody obviously engineered this with some like audio software or whatever, but a minor key version of Country Roads. Highly fucking recommend.
Yeah, I haven't heard that, but I've heard some of those for other songs. Like I can't remember what Beatles song. It might have been "Hey Jude," where they switched up the key in a way. It's interesting how much you can change the mood of the song just by doing that.
But the chorus of Country Roads in the minor key to me makes much more sense than the normal version, because in the regular version it'd be Country Roads take me home, and in the minor version it's Country Roads take me home, and it totally changes it. I highly recommend it if you haven't heard it.
No, you see, you guys are going about this all wrong. What you want to do is you want to find parts of the Star Wars soundtrack that are now done medieval style. Okay, that's the fucking jam right there. Or alternatively, I did find recently somebody did the I guess it's like Luke's theme from Star Wars, you know, like na, 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 the kind of wistful thing, and they did it like Soviet style with like a
you
Russian
sent that
chorus.
to me, dude.
Yeah,
it was so
dude.
good.
So good. Like that got recommended to me, and I was like, "Mwah, algorithm, yes, 100% correct. Yes. You have me pegged.
Nailed it.
This is what I want. I want more of this." And I was sad to find that there was no more of it. It was just that one track. So I've basically been listening to that on repeat.
Wow,
I want to hear it, man.
It's so good. Oh, that'll be the outro for this. It's so fucking. It slaps. What's cool? How do you say something is cool these days? I have no fucking idea.
It's hip.
It's
the bee's knees.
It's the bee's
It's with
knees.
it. No, I know how the kids. Hey, Zoomers listening. What the fuck is poggers?
I don't know what that means either.
If it's offensive, I apologize.
I honestly, I'm gonna say right now, based on my study of internet culture, we're just gonna have to ignore that one because there's too many overtones it could take. We're gonna move past it.
You gotta get on TikTok, man. You gotta get.
I absolutely do not need to have to get on TikTok.
Oh man, it's great.
Come on,
it's great. It's the new medium.
No,
yeah,
it's
but
Vine.
Not for us.
It's Vine.
Not for us.
It's for somebody else.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, that's one of the things that made me interested in kind of trying to study internet culture academically, right? Is that like there would be so many times in my life where I'd like stumble into a place online just going through like a weird rabbit hole, and then suddenly you find content that you realize is like, oh, this isn't for me. Like, this is so not for me that it becomes fascinating, right? But sometimes you enter a space like that and you have that feeling produces like a degree of uncomfortability, right? You're like, oh, this really isn't for me.
Yeah.
Like, this is something I shouldn't be looking at all. And that's how I feel about TikTok. Yeah, I look at it and I'm like totally detached.
I shouldn't be watching this. By the way, I have to point out how distressed Dwight looked when we bad talked TikTok, and then I watched him lean back in his chair and then like produce a flask from off camera and take a big swig out of it.
I was wondering why you were laughing. I was just like, is what
you
Shane
just look
said?
so distraught. I felt
funny.
bad. I wanted to be like, man, no, really, it's fine that you watch TikTok. It's okay.
I literally could not imagine going through the quarantine without it. Like it's such a good time waster, and obviously like the algorithm is like perfectly tuned for you. Like it's so in touch with what you're looking for. For instance, I don't know how this happened, but the other night, for whatever reason, after because I'm preparing to go on the Mr. Movies podcast to talk about Bram Stoker's Dracula, and for whatever reason afterwards, there was this one scene which is like in the beginning where they're like in the Crusades, and I got super interested, or I reawakened something that I'm super interested in, which is paleoanthropology and like the beginning of the human species and like the different fucking hominids that came before Homo sapiens.
Oh my god.
Oh, this is it's so.
I know where you're going with this, and that's what kills me.
Please tell me, because I sure as shit don't. But like, I love the idea of like ancient, going somewhere ancient and like being there in a point in history that feels very ancient. Like seeing I remember being in like a kid in like a nature camp, and we found this one place. Obviously, I grew up in the Northeast where there isn't a lot of seismic activity or active seismic activity, but seeing somewhere where there was like a fault between like rock and it was like, yeah, this is fucking mad old. And I remember being like, but how am I? It's in front of me. How am I seeing it? How is it here? And I just find that shit so compelling. So now the algorithm for TikTok has perfectly in tune me to paleoanthropology Twitter. Mary Freaky, get at me. That's the name of a paleoanthropologist, if I'm not mistaken. Mary Freaky?
Mary Freaky?
Yeah. That's
you're maybe confusing that with some other account you follow on TikTok. I don't
know. No.
Yeah.
Hang on. Let me hang on. Let me she might be dead too.
I like the idea that for this started as like I was watching this film and it reawakened this interest that I have in ancient history. And so I thought, what better way to explore that than watching like 20-second videos of people like dancing to pop music with little text coming up on the screen.
Yes, this is the new version of like the hand imprint in like the caves in France and shit like that. The like 20,000-year-old art and shit. And it was leaky. It was not freaky. It was leaky. In fact, is the name. Fucking idiot.
We're not cutting it.
You heard it. You heard it here first, folks. It was not freaky. It was leaky.
Come on, man. Mary Leakey.
Okay.
I think they've. I don't remember. Let me just produce my flask again. I'll figure it out later.
Dwight, have you ever read?
No, I don't read.
I love how I'm not even included in this question because he already knows the answer is no.
No. It was because of the paleo. It had nothing to do with the assumption. I will open this up to both of you. Okay.
Yes, please. Please.
This book, The Origins of Consciousness, in the breakdown of the bicameral mind.
I've heard of it because it was featured in Westworld.
Yeah, by Julian James. Yeah. It's they picked up on it in Westworld. It's also the kind of foundational idea in this book. What's it called? Snow Crash, sort of cyberpunk book from the 90s. But it's an interesting theory. I think it's been debunked in a number of ways. But the idea is it looks at like the Bronze Age collapse. Because it was basically like a dark age that followed the Bronze Age civilization around like 1200 BC. And the idea put forward in the book is that pre-modern man had two hemispheres of the brain, right? And these were, we don't, like, the way we experience consciousness now is a melding of the two. But at the time, they were two separate entities. One kind of gave commands and the other followed through with commands. And so the there's a bunch of, quasi-historical stuff cited in the book, and then some, like, quote-unquote contemporary psychological experiments that showed that there is a thing of, like, people who have, like, auditory hallucinations, who think that they can hear, like, loved ones, people they've lost, or like other kinds of
angels,
vague
demons.
ideas of like, exactly. Like the idea of like authority figures, right? It happens in one hemisphere of the brain. I forget what the split is. And the idea is that Julian James put forward is that that's how early man operated. And we didn't really have like full consciousness. We had a perception that we were hearing instructions from various things, and then the other part of our brain was the operator that then would carry out those instructions. And so his analysis then is that, like, that's what explains also the split in time in Western civilization, at least, of like polytheism and monotheism, right? Like the idea that like the polytheistic pantheon of gods that existed in all these, you know, Bronze Age Mediterranean civilizations were all, you know, this polytheistic thing. And so there's like the reason why is because you would hear instructions from these different gods in order to do certain social tasks. I read the book. It's really interesting, especially if you're on quite a lot of drugs. I don't know like how valid it is as a historical theory. It's more interesting from like a speculative ancient history way. I think a lot of people have debunked it. But the one really interesting portion I remember is he was talking about some experiment where they did with people like, you know, modern humans, or at the time, this was written in like the 70s, I think, you know, some mid-century, mid-20th century experiment they did where they were like stimulating parts of the brain, basically the same parts that like corresponded to, I forget what on the other side of the hemisphere, but they would stimulate them with electric shocks, and then the response that the participants would have is they would say things like, "Oh, I could hear my father when you did that, even though he's been dead for 20 years." Like it was like a way, and it sort of showed that. And I think part of his theory as well is that like modern day schizophrenics and people who have like you know, psychotic issues and stuff with their brain, it's kind of a reversion. It's like their brain is going back to the old way of doing things. Where the book A Scanner Darkly and the film A Scanner Darkly by Philip K. Dick, which is fantastic, but much more about like heavy amphetamine use, also deals with that idea of the split brain phenomenon, that like you could have two separate consciousnesses operating at the same time.
They didn't cover that in the 20 seconds on TikTok that I saw.
That's kind of also my point.
Yeah, Dan. No, I'm like super enamored with this book. I'm never going to read, but really want to now.
It's really interesting. I mean, you could probably find like a summary of it or something.
It's only from like the 1970s, so it's like not written in like, it's like written in a modern. Because I for some reason I thought it was older, like from the title. I really
no. It's from 1976.
Oh, okay. I could read that.
How racist is it? Is I think what we're really trying to figure out here.
Well, it's not explicitly racist, but I will say the biggest wrench in his theory is his argument is essentially that the reason why there was a shift is because all of the ancient civilizations that were built around this social model of people having these split brains, right, all collapsed within a very short period around 1200 BCE, which is true. We know that. We don't have the exact, you know, information. A lot of it is shrouded in myth and stuff. This is how I stumbled into it originally, because I was interested in Dark Ages stuff. Like, all those civilizations did collapse more or less around the same time, you know, within like about 100 years. And then it took several hundred years for them to kind of redevelop and build up into then what we really think of as antiquity with like ancient Greece and Rome and stuff. That all happened like after this collapse happened. And so his argument is that the collapse was such a shock to the social system, and part of that was like people couldn't function, people didn't know how to do anything anymore because they didn't have that instructing presence coming into them anymore. And so then as a result of that, it was an evolutionary jump that they're, you know, the people who had, you know, basically mutations or their own version of schizophrenia or whatever at the time, they were the ones who then propagated. And the problem with this is that, like, well, what was going on in China, like, or India? So,
right.
like, they didn't have consciousness like we did,
right.
Which is, you know, a pretty big wrench to throw into that theory. Again, it's still interesting to speculate about, I think. But yeah, it's a cool idea. It's again, that's why I think it's good for like sci-fi, like for Westworld or for Snow Crash, which it takes another sci-fi approach to it, or something like A Scanner Darkly. But we were supposed to talk about the election.
Yeah, I was just saying. Speaking about a monkey wrench, how about
speaking about a split brain?
The dang
how about
Cheeto
Republicans
in the White
and
House.
the Democrats?
How about that? Who's this? The Republicans?
If I'm really honest, like, I don't know if I'm obviously, you know, we're all super busy and shit, but like, I've really
No, I'm not.
Okay, well, I'm like, it is not registering with me that this shit is like...
Yeah, it's 6 days. No, it's not even. It's more than that. Less than that.
5 days.
5 days, man. Yeah. When is this episode going to come out, by the way?
I don't know.
We should release it on Wednesday.
Yeah, this weekend.
We should release it after the election. All of our speculation about the election. So what do we think, boys? Predictions?
I'll go on the record. I have my prediction that I've standing by for a long time, and we were actually talking about this way before we recorded.
I'm so it's so dread-inducing, but go on.
I think Trump is going to remain in office, and I think the mechanism for that is going to be, everything that's been forecasted already in terms of voter suppression, the wanton elimination of early votes, voting by mail. It'll be contested, obviously. I think that, there'll be a big fight about it. It'll be all over the news. And eventually it'll just go to the court and a supermajority on the court. Like, It's just, if they're going to have a verdict, who in those personalities, who among them is going to be like brave and stand up in order to save the republic or any of that shit? Like, none of them. They don't give a fuck. Like, most of them worked on the fucking Bush stealing the election in 2000.
Kavanaugh, literally.
Kavanaugh, literally. I think that that's true. And I think that, if Trump is going to win, that's the way he's going to do it. But I think Biden's got the votes. I don't know. Enough people have to turn out, enough people have to vote for him on election day for him to have a clear majority. Because if the exit polls show Trump, that's exactly what you're saying is going to happen. He's going to claim victory, like all the fucking mail-in voting that they've, like, through lawsuits and whatever, tried to get thrown out already. Like, if he has a fucking, like, Pennsylvania, I know every state's different, but like Pennsylvania, for one, they've had 2.8 million absentee or mail-in ballot requests. Yeah. And Pennsylvania does not start counting those until 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. election day. Right. So, like, there's no way, like, we're not going to know anything. We're not going to know anything that day, And, like, if more people turn out for Trump on the day of than Biden, I don't know.
As a Pennsylvania resident, I'll say, too, like, most of my life, I've lived in New York, grew up in New York, spent until last year, really, or the year before, right? Like, when I moved to Pennsylvania. Like, I have gotten every day in the last week about 10 calls from different, Democratic outreach things, like, voter participation things. My mailbox is literally filled to the brim with junk. I can't keep bringing it up because I end up having to throw it out, of, like, instructions of, like, you gotta vote, here's where to vote, here's when to vote, or whatever. And the thing that they've been pushing the whole time, like, I got a call like 2 days ago that was telling me to do early voting. And, I said, like, hey, I'm going to go vote on election day, like I've done always. I don't also mention that I'm not voting for Biden. I'm obviously not voting for Trump either, but, like, I try to be nice to them because I understand their, like, outreach program. And also, I want to make it clear, I'm not telling anybody else who to vote for. I have no interest in doing that. I don't think it's productive to yell at anybody. You do what you think is important. But, like, there's been such a push to do that. And I do think that there's a chance that really is going to end up getting them, like, shooting themselves in the foot. Because, I mean, not even just on the legal process, but, like, I want to say last week I saw this report of this fucking crazy QAnon guy who's, like, burning mail-in ballot, like, places and stuff. Yeah. Like, you got to think about, not to anger or incite any amount of our audience by saying this, but, like, an attributed quote, let's just say, to Stalin is, it's not the votes that count, it's who counts the votes. Like, who do you think is in charge in all these various municipalities and places of like, fucking counting this and making sure that this is okay, right? Like, who's, like, in the case of the guy burning the fucking ballot boxes, like, who's in charge of delivering the fucking ballots, right? I think it's going to be such a fucking mess. And I guess there's a chance Biden could still come out on top of it. But especially in the key states, like, he's got to win. I saw in the New York Times they had a good widget thing for the election. And the reason why I liked it is because they had, like, here's what the polls are. Here's what the electoral map would look like if the polls are correct. Which I also acknowledge it's probably not going to be correct, but this is what it would look at. And it was like a Biden blowout. Like, total, it was like 380 electoral votes to whatever the other one was. Then they said, but if the polls are wrong in the exact ways that they were wrong in 2016, here's what the electoral map would look like. And it still had Biden ahead, but by considerably less. He had like 280 electoral votes to whatever Trump's equivalent were. And that shows that there's a huge discrepancy that already happened with the polling in 2016, which was the thing I was saying at the time that infuriated the shit out of me, where I was saying, like, I think Trump's going to win, and I was just shouted down. And right now I'm getting the same kind of vibe. Again, I'm not basing this entirely on any kind of quantitative data or whatever. It's just a feeling that I have. My feeling is that they're going to run away with it, and if it goes up to a contest, if it ends up being a fight, which it probably will be, what do the Democrats do when there's a fight? What did they do to stop fucking Amy Coney Barrett?
Nothing.
Not a goddamn thing.
Nothing.
No.
What did they do to stop Bush v. Gore? Nothing. They just conceded. They just said, all right. Okay, Roger Stone, you're fine.
Nothing. They did nothing. So I think probably regardless, Biden wins the popular vote.
Oh, absolutely.
Sure.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But
for sure.
I'm with both of you guys that I think that there's going to be, unless it's like a undeniable margin, like 8, 10, 12%, something like that, it's going to be contested in some way, and we're not going to get the, Trump or Biden's face illuminated on the Empire State Building at 1 a.m. or whatever.
Well, here's the wrinkle I would throw into that, right? I think you're right in that unless it's like a huge margin, right, it won't be a valid fight and contest over who won. Regardless of the margin, it will be a fight.
Yeah, no, he's gonna.
If Biden wins by 20 points, Trump will come out on TV and say, "I won the election."
Right. It was stolen. It was stolen. Matter. It was rigged.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
It's the difference of for him, if it's a 20-point margin and Trump is just like, this is ridiculous, very unfair. We'll just be like, shut up. I don't think there's not enough mass out there to support him that would not stop him from not vacating office.
I don't know. Have you seen the McCloskeys? I mean,
but if there is, and I'm optimistic, but not in a way that's I don't know what to say without being allegedly.
Go ahead, but man. It's the Patreon.
I know. Okay, so
you say that as if there's a different legal.
Let me take a big
This is only for the true heads, man. There's no snitches. There's no snitches listening to this.
No, nobody else can access this.
Pounding whiskey from a flask like Biff Tannen. It's if there is unrest, or if there is a contest about this, our option is to exercise in the way that there's been more protests by volume this year than at any other point in American history. And the only other way out of it is to I'm going to say this in a very nice coded language, to delegitimize the Supreme Court. And I implore everybody to read into that.
Right. I mean, in the episode that you the listener will subsequently hear, the language being used here is, we're going to sue the Supreme Court.
Right.
No.
Right. Well, in fact,
we will be speaking to our court-appointed
in fact,
attorneys.
I believe it's in my drafts right now, something I almost tweeted last week, but decided not to, introducing my new plan for reforming the Supreme Court. It's called...
Oh, no.
And then, and then abolish the Supreme Court.
Well, I don't know if the "and" needs to happen. I think you kind of do that in the first part of it.
You then abolish it as an institution, so they don't replace the motherfuckers.
Actually, abolish everyone on the Supreme Court, and then replace the Supreme Court, instead of expanding the judges, contract the judges.
Yes.
And make it so there's only one Supreme Court judge, and his name is Slavoj Žižek. and he is the final arbiter on every decision, and every legal decision from now on will take 30 to 40 years to work out. And he goes, "Mein Gott, what is this idea? Who knows how to? I read the Constitution or whatever, and it's unclear." As Lacan said, rightly so.
I guess it's maybe a cop-out and easy for me, because in my head I'm just like, I don't have any affection for the institution of the Supreme Court.
No.
The judicial branch.
You love it. You love it.
I have
100 pictures of Dwight hugging and kissing the Supreme Court.
I actually found Dwight's laptop at the repair shop he left it at last week, and it's just filled with pictures of him hanging out with the Supreme Court, kissing, hugging them, hanging out in jacuzzis.
Tucker Carlson also had that evidence, but he lost it in last week. And I have obviously no affection for the executive branch, and I just think that, again, it's fucking insanely anti-democratic if one person, an 87-year-old person, dies, and then all of a sudden all of women's rights is set back like fucking 100 years. It's why this is not a system, not an institution worth keeping.
No.
And moreover, okay, the Supreme Court rules something. How do they enforce it? How do they enforce the shit that they rule? They don't have an army or an occupying force. They don't have cops. Like, I guess it trickles down, but like at some point, what is the mechanism in charge of making us respect this institution? I don't think we should fucking respect it at all.
I mean, I don't either, but I mean, like there's still this like ridiculous liberal sensibility that you're supposed to have like respect for these branches of government and like the checks and balances and all that sort of bullshit. But like there's no such thing as checks and balances if like an insane right-wing party owns all three.
Right.
And like,
exactly.
And like all they do is just use each branch to like, enforce, then back up the will of the other and that sort of thing. I mean, yeah, as long as like the Republicans have control of the Congress, like I suppose they're the ones that enforce like the will of the court, or the will, like the court bends to their will. Like they kick up to the court the things that they want to be there because they appoint the judges at a state level and a federal level and a fucking all that sort of stuff as well. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know, man. And then if the Democrats also, like I said, have this liberal fucking idea of like, can you imagine a fucking Democrat saying the Supreme Court is not legitimate?
No.
It's like, well, we don't have to like it, but we do have to respect them.
Did you say we don't have to light it?
No, it's just as I was doing Democrat voice. I said,
that was my
well, we don't have to like them, but we do have to respect them.
Well, we don't, as I'm holding a torch, well, we don't have to light it, but...
So, Dwight, I'm sorry, I just imagined you holding a tiki torch.
I did too. No, I absolutely did.
My mind's eye, that's what I imagined.
Yeah.
I think, the real question, right, is like whether or not the left, whatever that conjures to mind for you, right? Like, however you construe that. However, whatever the conceptualization of that as like some kind of concrete electoral block, right? Like, will the left be more able to get what they want under like a Biden presidency or a Trump presidency? Like that's kind of the calculation that's being made. That's the argument that's being made. Like, oh, if we elect Trump out, we can get these various things passed. Maybe we can push him left or whatever. And not necessarily commenting on that. I think like for me, the political history that I've experienced in my own life, right, is like coming of age during the Bush administration, right? Coming of age during the War on Terror, like being like a person as a child directly traumatized by like 9/11 and the subsequent events that happened as a result of that, and like then seeing like how did this supposedly progressive Democrat come in and like rectify those things. And there are some arguments that can be made in favor, right? Like, okay, there was some attempt at like resuscitating the economy, right? Like, and obviously it was better than the recession itself. Token healthcare reform that for most people, including myself, I don't know, like if the Affordable Healthcare Act like helped you in some way, that's great. Like there are, I guess, ways I could say it helped me. I mean, I gotta say, like the fucking provision where you gotta pay on your taxes if you don't have healthcare, which I had to do several times, was something that was not good for me. But outside of that, and like in terms of like the broader strokes things, like like the wars were, I guess, tampered down in terms of like troops counts on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan, but like they continued and expanded in all kinds of awful ways. More money was funneled to those wars, and ultimately, like as we were talking about on the main show, like the expansion of the police, the militarization of the police, like expanded greatly during that. And so, like I think about all of the things that are bad right now that we associate with the Trump administration, like if Biden somehow did become president, like if that scenario does happen, like what is going to be changed? Like, is Biden going to reverse whatever the border policy is? Is Biden going to like clamp down on ICE? Is he going to be able to do that? Is Biden going to more effectively manage the COVID-19 pandemic when like half of the country's like governors don't even want to listen to the federal government? I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's too late. I think that maybe perhaps another president might have handled COVID differently, but at this point, the damage is it's too late. It's too late. You're never especially if fucking Biden wins in a contested election. Those people they're not wearing masks. They're never going. They're not going to do it. Yeah.
Especially not going to do it under Biden because he said so.
Right. Imagine Biden becomes president and then does do like a nationwide like mask mandate. Like there'll be like suicide bombings against the fucking Capitol building. Like
you got to be like Jim Carrey, 1994, The Mask, one of my favorite pictures. He puts it on and then he can do all sorts of stuff. Come on, man.
Yes, Biden sucks. I'm not voting. I don't care if you do or if you don't, honestly. I'm not going to shame anybody for doing it or anybody for not doing it. But, no, Trump does seem like a unique kind of dangerous for an American president.
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely. At least if for no other reason than just like the license and the endorsement that he gives to like explicitly like violent fascists and white supremacists in this country. Like that's not like fucking Bush, fucking Mitt Romney. Like they don't. It's not quite so explicit. It's not out there, and it's like nobody does the kinds of things that he does. And, I don't know. I mean, we're fucked either way. But if you're kidding yourself, and there's a lot of people that say like there's really no difference, or who have like some insane black pilled accelerationist like theory that like the 4 more years of Trump is going to accelerate us into communism somehow or something. Like that's insane.
Right?
It's insane thinking.
Yeah, no.
It's just there's not like it's going to accelerate us deeper into fascism is all it's going to do, and anything we could do to maybe curb that is not so bad, even if Biden sucks.
I think that if Trump wins again, and win again is if he remains in power.
If he seizes power in a coup.
Yeah. If he seizes power, right? Like he's not like he'll never step down.
No.
Like maybe in 10 years or something when he's like starting to get really old and just wants to go out to pasture and he appoints Don Jr. the Chancellor of the Republic or whatever. But like, there's that meme that he's reposted now a couple of times, which is it's really phenomenal. It's something I want to write like a whole book about it. Like it has so much wrapped up in it, but it's this video. I don't think it's anybody on his team that made it. I think it might be just like some random internet meme thing where it's like the Trump 2016 lawn sign.
Carpe Donctum. That's a Carpe Donctum original.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then it starts flowing through. It's like a video. It starts flowing through Trump 2020, Trump 2024, Trump 2028. And as it's going, it's playing in the Hall of the Mountain King. And I really think that's like the swan song of the American Republic. I really do. And of course, like, whether or not like you have vested interests in the maintenance of the American Republic is, a big question on the left. Like, obviously, it's like fuck to its core. And I think that like you're right, Chris. Like, and I feel this way as I'm saying, like I am voting, and I'm not going to be voting for Biden, but I do acknowledge and recognize that there is an explicitly unique danger in the figure of Trump and his approach to power and politics. That like the idea. I have something else to say. It's going to take me a second to find a legal way to say it. Dwight, you wanted to say something? Maybe you want to jump in?
I guess, look, I guess I got to bear my cards out here. And I don't really have a coherent way to express this because, when I do vote for Joe Biden, I recognize that the choice is either vote for the neo-fascist, which obviously I would never do because, I'll end up in a camp, or I vote for the neoliberal with no ideology, because Joe Biden does not have an ideology, really. I mean, he has no ideology. He has no beliefs, and he just swings with sways with the political tide. And so my vote will go, and I am going to vote for Joe Biden. Again, not for a reason that I really know. I'm just trying to think. I don't know why. I don't know if I can articulate why, but I know that I'm going to. And I think I'm going to do it I'm supposed to do it on the Working Families Party line or some shit like that, because I'm in New York City and I live in a completely undemocratic country in which my vote doesn't count for some fucked up reason. But, he is at least not a neo-fascist, but rather he is also a candidate for a country who he says he's not going to ban fracking. At a time where, while the news media really isn't dwelling on this right now, but the West Coast is literally still on fire, and there are like an unprecedented hurricane season, and at the end of the day, the current supposedly democratic institutions that we're governed under are completely unwilling or unable to handle the climate change challenges that we're staring down the barrel of. However, I would rather fight that fight in the streets versus Trump, who, I'm going to be sent to a camp anyway, or be taken political prisoner under, the dynastic rule of the Trump bloodline or whatever. And it's either way, it's terrifying and daunting. Either way, we will be in the streets and have to do allegedly property damage parody, and seize power, sometimes physically, of actual shit. Let's bleep that out.
No, it's fine.
Let's bleep that out.
I want to say something, actually.
If I may interject very quickly, I just want to say that it really is. I don't know if you guys saw that post that guy, Professor Scott Galloway, did the other day. I'm reading. He says, he's holding up his mail-in ballot. He says, whenever I do this, I think of Flight 93, parentheses, 9/11.
Yeah.
How did the passengers decide whether to rush the cockpit / hijackers and attempt to retake control of the plane? They voted. And I think that, that's actually a good analogy, not for the reasons that he thinks, but because, Dwight is laying out for us that, you're voting about which way you want to die. Do you want the fucking terrorists to crash the plane into the White House, or do you want to crash it into a field yourself? Either way, you're going to be vaporized very soon.
Yeah, I think that, again, anyway, sorry, go ahead, Shane. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I have a million things to say about the Galloway 9/11 post. But setting those aside for a second, I just wanted to say, in a kind of meta-communicative and friendly way, both to the two of you and to our audience, we just all talked about our decision-making process in voting, right? And we have one of us who is not voting. We have one of us who's voting third party, and we have one of us who's voting for Joe Biden. And we were able to have that conversation without yelling at each other or calling each other stupid or getting mad or blaming one person or the other for doing one thing or another. And I think that's a healthy way to deal with that, because I've seen so much of it, and obviously, a lot of it comes from powerful liberal institutional people of yelling and shaming people into voting one way or another, and I think it's entirely unproductive. And I just wanted to give the three of us a little pat on the back and a nice hey, this means nothing in terms of how we feel about each other. This is we can say our reasons. You can have that discussion. What I'm basically advocating for is more civility in politics.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I don't know. The thing about
I fucking blacked out. I fucking fell over. I fucking blacked out. Oh man,
I do want to talk about the 9/11 post.
The thing about voting for Biden as well is that even if you don't want to, just it takes 30 seconds to fill this shit out and mail it in. You know what I'm saying? Why would you I guess what I'm saying is, and again, I don't care one way or the other. I'm not gonna say anybody one way or the other, but I do see people who have tried to shame people. Shane was saying for not voting for Biden, but then again, for people on the left who do make the decision to vote for Biden for whatever personal reasons.
Yeah.
I see those people getting shamed too, and it's like you're not sacrificing any principles to do that.
Right.
You're just sort of like hedging your bets a little bit. It's not that big a deal.
Because the three of us agree that the way out of the predicament that we are in is not.
It's not at the ballot box.
No, it's not electoralism.
Right,
we're not getting out of this like this.
Right. So who cares? Vote for fucking Mickey Mouse. Who gives a shit?
And Chris, as you pointed out, like obviously, depending on who you are and where you are in the country, there are like serious impediments to voting. But I have seen a number of people, some of whom I know personally, talk about this idea of like, this performative, like I'm not going to vote or I'm not going to vote for Joe Biden. Like, fuck you if you do. Like by people who it's like, I know where your polling place is. Like it's close to your house. It really would take you like 30 minutes at most to go and like hit that lever or whatever. And I think this is one of the traps that people fall into of the whole like electoralism argument. There's this idea of like, oh, too much energy is channeled, too much energy and resources are channeled into the electoral solutions for things, and really they should be, you shouldn't be voting, you should be doing X, Y, Z. And it's like, for a good number of people, I would imagine, voting is not like some huge, like you don't have to, like, it's not like calling you to volunteer for the campaign or go knock doors for the campaign or go, fucking make calls for the campaign or whatever. Like, it takes 20 minutes. It's something you can do, right? And I would say like, not even just in a national way, like local elections often make a much bigger like immediate impact, right?
Yes.
And so like it's still valid, it's still like worth your time to like fill out the thing and go do it or whatever. And it doesn't mean like if I like vote for somebody, it doesn't mean that that's energy that I'm not expending on like, I don't know, advocating relentlessly for proletarian armed revolution or whatever.
Yeah.
that is often said in this case. I'm digging a hole for myself. Get me out of here.
I have no affection.
Somebody get me out of here.
Like I literally hate Joe Biden. Like I have hate in my heart.
Nah, well, hold on a second, Dwight, because I have a recording here of you saying I will gladly vote for Joe Biden.
Jason Crane, please, no, get me out of this. Like I hate him. Like he doesn't give a shit about me. He's punch left his entire career. He has rhetorically dehumanized members of my family.
He wrote the crime bill. He's literally a rapist.
Like
he's a bad guy.
He's a bad man, and I hate him. But like again, like we've always said in the entirety of the longitude of this show is that electoralism is the weakest prong of a multi-pronged approach to the change that we need to get us out of the predicament that we are and to move towards a democratic, egalitarian, just society. Joe Biden ain't it. But also, I would rather fight him than Donald Trump and a baying, the fucking horde of fascists that are ready to take arms.
Here's the thing, though, and I've been thinking about this for the past couple of weeks.
How bad can I feel, Chris?
Here's the really grim part about that, is that even if Biden does win, like, imagine like the 2022 midterms. How many fucking, like, because the QAnon and all that shit, it's not going anywhere. Like, these MAGA, like, the militia people, the MAGA people, they're not going away. They're going to get into Congress in 2022.
That was one of the things I'm trying to be diplomatic about how I say this, but I was privy to a talk recently by a few political scientists, and one of the questions that was raised at this talk was the idea of like, if Trump gets out, right, which they were all very confident was going to happen, will the Republican Party like kind of oscillate back towards a more normal political party? And they were all in agreement, like, oh, absolutely, yes. And in my head, I wanted to like chew a bullet. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, no, what happens is Trump loses, right, theoretically in this scenario. 2024, it's literally just like it's a scarecrow wearing a KKK outfit is the
Brown
next
shirts.
fucking like
rail
with
guns.
a swastika.
No, I posted this a couple weeks ago. Like they're not getting the Republican base. They're not getting it back from him, not right away. He's not going anywhere. Like, if he loses, he's going to be, no matter how much they maybe attempt to like disown him, like some, to like make themselves look good or whatever. Hi, Carrie. No, he's going to be like the opposition leader, officially or unofficially. He's not going anywhere.
Yes.
He's not going to stop tweeting. Yeah. Fox News is not going to stop giving him airtime. He's not going anywhere.
Gary, we were just talking about who we're voting for, who we're not voting for. Do you want to chime in?
Shane said vote blue no matter who.
What? No! No! Cut her mic!
It's your mic.
Off the show.
It's your mic.
I have to destroy my own hard drive now. God, I'm gonna Google laptop repair in my area.
Laptop repair, Delaware.
Put it where.
It's by the way, I cannot. I just like that's the Biden, the Hunter Biden thing, the laptop thing is so funny for so many reasons. But like, one, like, I absolutely believe most of what they're saying, the content. Like, of course, like, you don't need evidence to like plainly look at like the fucking nepotism and the corruption of him getting that fucking job in Ukraine and all that sort of stuff. But like, just the way they've attempted to launder this material from this like obviously stolen laptop into like the news through this like ridiculous story about like, well, he dropped it off at this computer repair and then he never picked it up, and then the owner of the repair shop gave it to Rudy Giuliani somehow and like and now Rudy Giuliani just has it, and like we're supposed to believe that is like the provenance of this.
Shane, give him a call.
I was about to say.
Okay.
I was about to say.
Right.
Let's do it again.
We'll close that on the Rudy call.
A message to you, Rudy. A message
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. Not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Hey Rudy, it's me again. This is Frank Squanko Baguette, and I know there's a lot of concern going around now about the election, what have you. I got the boys all in place for Operation Go Zone. We got Staten Island covered so far. We got most of the lower Manhattan covered. I got the Bronx. My big problem right now is getting into Brooklyn. I'm not allowed on bridges because of a court order, so I can't get over there. So if you could give me a call at the ferry, no problem. Yeah, I don't know if you ever seen The Dark Knight, but I got a lot of experience with the ferry. So anyway, as usual, give me a call back. And if you don't call me back, I'll just keep ringing. Love the show, Borat. See you later.
Oh God.
I want to return to something though that you guys were talking about, which is like what, like, basically, and it kind of gets back to a question I brought up, which is like, what changes, right? Like, what's different with one candidate or the other becoming president? Like, what changes from the left, like from the left's perspective, again taking that broad view, however you conceptualize that. And the reality is, like, in both cases, like, there's a fight that needs to happen. There's a struggle that needs to happen that goes beyond the battle box. Beyond the battle box.
Beyond the battle box.
All right, Rudy, BattleBots. What do you think? Let's get it back on the air.
Bring
a lot
back
of networks.
Jack the Ripper.
But like, there's like you said, Dwight. It's a multi-pronged approach. The going to vote is the weakest prong among them. It's still part of that strategy, but there's a lot of other things. There's a lot of other ways to put pressure. There's a lot of other ways to demonstrate and make known what it is that you want to do. And I think regardless of what happens, right? Like, we got to do that. We got to find that whatever that is, that mechanism for doing that. And it's hard. It's hard when there isn't that clear kind of national leadership for that. But we gotta figure out a way to do it.
I'm not bothered by the fact that there is no leader of the left right now, because I think any solution, political solution or economic solution or political economic solution should be one that is decentralized, because if you can't stop it by killing or delegitimizing one individual. If it's a movement,
you need to kill lots of individuals.
Well, again, I'm a bit concerned about being put into a camp, but like it's extremely it's so much more powerful when it is decentralized. And
my counter to that would be I think that there's a value still in the idea of a sustained, centralized, a kind of national scope leadership in terms of, dealing with at least like the imminent like political problems. And for me, like obviously there's still a problem with like leader worship or whatever, but for me, the person that I would put at the front of that would be Adam Botha, our good friend. I think he should be
totally
chairman with autocratic
abilities
and powers granted to him.
If you weren't going to say it, I was, because he is above all else an advocate of a strong centralized state.
Yes, 100% a statist.
A bottleneck, if you will. In which everything has to be funneled through that one state. And on his podcast, Acclimated Pod, he advocates for that explicitly, especially in the remediation of climate change. He wants a strong state, definitely not an anarchist state. He wants everything to be done by a centrally planned leadership committee.
Right.
The other day I called him up and I asked him,
like Stalin.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. I called him up and I said, hey Adam, like, I'm enjoying the work you're doing on the podcast and some of the conversations we're having, but like don't you see the state as being maybe like the origins of a lot of the problems that we're dealing with? And he responded,
what did he say?
I am the state.
His timbre and accent changed greatly since last I heard him, but I think quarantine's been rough on him.
A lot of people think he's from New Jersey. He's actually from the planet Naboo.
He's from Naboo, really?
Yeah. He was the senator from Naboo. He just spent most of his time on Coruscant.
Got it.
And Naboo is where he learned the hatred of the Gungans.
Yeah, no.
And so then he went to Coruscant, so he would never have to see them again.
As he would. Well, and good for him. I look for him. If I can quote him, Adam, directly, a bird in the hand is worth two despots, which I like a lot anyway. Direct quote.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
He DM'd me.
See, you guys started off talking about like music you've been listening to. The last week, I've just made Carrie to suffer through watching all of the Star Wars films.
I should watch all the Star Wars movies again.
And we're almost at now the final one, The Rise of Skywalker. In my opinion, one of the best ones because it returns.
Which is the only one I haven't seen.
Oh God, it's so good because because they fucked up the sequel franchise so badly. Yeah. They had nowhere to go except to bring back Palpatine, who is the best part of Star Wars, period, because it's such a hammy, stupid character. And he's just like, I love evil, and I will now do evil unto you. Now your training is complete.
I don't want to spoil it for Chris, but I mean, what Palpatine ends up asserting, and I think quite poetically, is that there is one heir to the Empire, and that is Adam Botha of Acclimated Pod. So it's not just despotic Leviathan-like power. It's also inherited despotic Leviathan-like power.
Yeah. With the midichlorians of the Force. Right. This November 3rd, there is a choice you have to make. Go to the ballot box. Fulfill your destiny.
I know the funny,
this battle station will be fully operational.
I do love the we talked about this not even that long ago, but the hammy, speaking of hammy, explicitly evil characters in Star Wars, just the name General Grievous. It's
General
Colonel Bad.
I thought you were going to say General Greenwald.
No, General Grievous, man. Like, and I always like, because that movie came out when I was in like middle school, and I liked that character. I liked that character a lot, but like even then, I was like, man, this name is really lame.
Well,
but at this point, it's like I find it endearing.
Well, okay, this is again tangent, and we will end after this. But like originally, right? Like Darth Vader, right? Cool as like unbeatable villain.
Yeah.
Like one of the greatest villains of all time. Like there's no way you can replicate that.
Class,
and the idea,
style, great pilot.
And if you put that name, right? Like you take it down, Darth Vader. It's just a mangling of Dark Father, right? Like that's the whole origin of it, right? It's just
never put that together.
But then in the prequels, there's the idea that like all the Sith have to have Darth before them, and so then what do you get? You get Darth Maul, which is basically like Darth Attack, like Darth like Maim. Then Count Dooku is
what is that?
Is Darth Tyrannus.
That's right.
Oh, Lord.
And then so it's Dark Attack, Dark Tyrant, and then Darth Insidious.
So Latin is present in this universe?
Well, not just Latin. I mean, and this is I bought this for this is actually a little spoiler if Adam hears this before he gets it. For his birthday.
You're so good with
I
presents.
bought him my favorite character in the entire Star Wars trilogy is or nineology, whatever you call it now. In the prequel movies, in the second episode, there's Obi-Wan has to figure out where the planet Kamino is, like why it's not in the records or whatever, and he goes to Dexter Jettster's 1950s diner, which
Jack Rabbit's is Space Jack Rabbit Slims.
Absolutely nonsensical, because it's a 1950s nostalgia diner that's like operated by like droids who are like, you want another cup of Joe, honey? like 50s
and the entire everything except Obi-Wan is CGI. The entire scene except Obi-Wan is CGI.
But the meta implication of that, right, is like, okay, so in our universe, reality, as we like to call it sometimes, the reason why 1950s nostalgia exists is because that was like a period of time that happened, now like 70 years ago, that we feel nostalgic for. So in the Star Wars universe, if there's a 1950s nostalgia diner, that means that, like, at some time previous in the Star Wars universe, they were like 1950s Americans, which means that they had like, segregation and the Korean War, like every other element of like 1950s culture, like conformism, like the post-war baby boom.
Well, as we saw very early on in the cantina scene in the first Star Wars, they still have segregation. They wouldn't let the droids in.
That's right.
That's right. Yeah. That's right.
Sunday,
that's right.
Monday, happy days, Roger.
Oh, God.
All right. What are we doing here?
We're done. We're done. We're done. We're done.
You're going to vote or you're not going to vote. Stay cool.
Yeah, stay cool. Good luck to all of us.
Good night and good luck.
Oh, we definitely have to end with the Star Wars Soviet music now.
Yeah, all right. I can concede. Oh, but we've got the whole Country Roads. Yeah, we'll go for that. Yeah, fuck it.
Country Roads will come back. It always comes back. It's like poetry. It rhymes.
You just do
That's
both.
a George Lucas reference. Just overlay that on top of me. Okay, let's do that.
Stay cool. Goodbye.
Good night.
Good luck.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.
I love you so much. Bye.
I love you guys.